Okay, so today we're going way back to ancient Babylon.
Seems intriguing.
It is, it is. We're diving into, well, this classic Babylonian tale about, well, it's about a spear maker.
Okay, a spear maker.
Yeah, named Rodan.
Yeah.
And he stumbles into a pretty huge windfall of gold.
Okay.
50 gold pieces.
Wow.
Yeah, 50. Now, for a guy like Rodan, who's, a craftsman, a spear maker, this is like,
Life-changing.
yeah, life-changing,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. I mean, you can just imagine the possibilities swirling in his head, right?
Yeah, what to do with all that gold? It's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem.
Yeah.
But I think for most of us, the first instinct might be to, well, spend it.
Yeah, indulge a little, treat yourself. Right.
All right. Maybe upgrade the workshop, buy some fancy things. Who knows?
Sure. But Rodan, he does something a little different.
He does. He does. And that's where this gets interesting. He decides to seek advice.
Yeah.
He goes to Mathan, who's a gold lender.
A gold lender. Interesting choice.
It is. And it's not even for more gold. He wants guidance, wisdom. He recognizes, I think, that managing this kind of wealth is something he needs help with.
That's smart, realizing you don't know everything and seeking expert advice.
Exactly. And Mathan, well, he's not just some random guy with money. He's described as this wise, experienced figure. He's seen it all, knows the pitfalls, the temptations, the whole game when it comes to gold and what it does to people.
So it's a perfect setup then. We've got Rodan, our spear maker, suddenly thrust into this world of wealth, and Mathan, the seasoned veteran who can guide him.
Right. And what we're going to do today is unpack their conversation. Mathan reveals a lot, not just about lending and borrowing, but about human nature, but the traps we fall into when it comes to money. And honestly, the stuff is as relevant now as it was back then.
Timeless wisdom, that's what we're after. And who knows, maybe we'll even pick up a few tips for navigating our own financial lives in the process.
So let's get into it. So Rodan's got this gold. And like we said, his first thought is just to, hold on to it, keep it safe. It's the reward for his hard work, right?
Makes sense. It's his security.
But then his sister enters the picture. She comes to him with a proposition. Lend the gold to her husband, Aramon, so he can set himself up as a merchant.
Ah, so the plot thickens. Family dynamics coming into play now.
Exactly. And it's a tough spot for Rodan. On one hand, he wants to help his family. On the other hand, it's a lot of gold to risk.
It is, and this introduces that classic dilemma, balancing personal gain with family obligations. It's a theme that resonates across cultures and time periods, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's something we all grapple with in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because Manon immediately addresses this very tension when Rodan tells him about his sister's request. He talks about how possessing gold, it's not just about the potential for wealth, but also the fear of losing it, the responsibility it brings.
And the power, too, right? Having that much wealth can be intoxicating. It can change people.
Exactly. And Masson knows this. He's seen firsthand how gold can bring out the best and the worst in people. He even says something like, good intentions can pave the road to unwise actions.
It's a powerful statement because we often think that as long as our intentions are pure, everything will work out. But that's not always the case, especially when it comes to money.
Right. And Mathan, to really drive this point home, he tells Rodan a fable.
Oh, I love fables. Always a good lesson hidden within. What's this one about?
It's the story of a farmer in Nineveh and his ox and his ass. Now, the ox, he's complaining about all the hard work he has to do, plowing the fields and whatnot.
Okay, standard ox duties.
Right. And the ass, wanting to be helpful, suggests that the ox pretend to be sick. So the next day, the ox, he puts on this whole act, moaning and groaning. The farmer thinks he's really ill, so he has the ass do the plowing instead.
So the ass is doing double duty now.
Exactly. And of course, the ass gets exhausted. He's not used to this kind of work. Ends up getting injured, too.
Ouch. Not a good outcome for the ass.
No, not at all. But the story doesn't end there. The farmer, he's not stupid. He realizes the ox was faking it. And he gets angry. He threatens to send the ox to the butcher if he tries that again.
Oh, so now the ox is in real trouble.
Yeah. And their friendship, well, it's ruined. The ox is resentful, and the ass is bitter because he got tricked into all that extra work. And what's the moral of the story? As Milthon explains it, helping a friend shouldn't mean taking on all their burdens.
It's such a powerful lesson. It reminds me of that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. And Melthon, he directly links this fable back to a Rodan situation. He's basically saying, look, wanting to help your sister is one thing, but are you sure you're not just enabling Aramon's lack of preparation?
It's that crucial distinction between support and enablement. And it's so relevant even today. Think about situations where we might co-sign a loan for someone or bail someone out of debt without really addressing the root cause of their financial troubles.
Right. It might feel good in the moment, but it can lead to bigger problems down the road.
Absolutely. And it often strains relationships too, just like the ox and the ass.
So Manthon, having laid this groundwork, he then introduces Rodin to something he calls his token chest.
A token chest, that sounds interesting. What is it exactly?
It's this chest, covered in red pigskin, decorated with bronze. And inside, he keeps tokens, mementos from all the loans he's made over the years. He explains that for every loan, he takes a token from the borrower. It's returned when they repay the loan.
Okay, so it's like a physical record of his lending history.
Exactly. And he says each token tells a story. And he starts going through them, categorizing his borrowers into three main types.
Three types. I'm curious to hear about this categorization. What are they?
So the first type, he describes them as those who offer possessions worth more than the loan itself. Manthon calls them loans secured by pledges, what we might call today collateralized loans.
So something tangible backing up the loan, like property or valuable good.
Right, and Manthon points out these are generally the safest loans, because if the borrower fails to repay, he can seize the pledged asset. It minimizes his risk.
Makes sense. It's like a safety net for the lender. They know they can recoup their losses if things go south.
Exactly. Then there's the second type, those who offer their earning capacity as security.
So people who have a steady income, craftsmen, merchants, that sort of thing.
Exactly. People like Rodin himself. And for these loans, Manthon says, the key is character. He has to judge whether they're honest, hardworking, reliable. Can they be trusted to repay the loan?
It's a judgment call then, assessing not just their financial situation, but also their integrity.
Right. Because a steady income is one thing, but if someone is prone to dishonesty or laziness, well, the loan is still a risk.
Right. It's like how today lenders look at credit scores, trying to get a sense of someone's financial track record.
And then there's the third type, and this is where it gets a little dicey. These are borrowers who have neither valuable possessions nor a dependable income.
So the high risk category.
Yeah. Manthon, he's very cautious about these. He says he sometimes requires a guarantor, someone who will vouch for the borrower and agree to repay the debt if they default.
Kind of like a cosigner then, sharing the risk.
Right. And even then, he says these loans often lead to regret because the chances of getting your money back, well, they're slim.
A gamble then, not a sound investment strategy.
And this whole system, the token chest, it's more than just a record-keeping method. It's like a library of human experiences. Each token represents a story, a lesson learned.
Fascinating. And I bet those stories are full of insights into human behavior, both good and bad.
Exactly. And Manthon, he shares some of these stories with Rodin to illustrate the wisdom and the dangers of lending gold.
So let's hear some of these tales from the token chest. I'm eager to learn what Manthon has to teach us.
Well, the first token he pulls out is a bronze neckpiece, resting on a piece of scarlet cloth.
Okay, what's the story behind this one?
It's a tragic one. It belonged to two friends of Manthon's, both successful traders. But one of them, he brought back an extravagant wife from the East, and he spent all his gold trying to please her, keep up with her lavish lifestyle. Eventually, he had to turn to Manthon for a loan.
So, driven by love, or perhaps infatuation, he overextended himself financially.
Exactly. And Manthon, he tried to advise him, but it wasn't enough. Things spiraled out of control, and in the end, there was a terrible quarrel. The husband ended up being killed by his wife, and she, overcome with guilt and remorse, took her own life.
A story of passion and tragedy, and a stark reminder that strong emotions can cloud judgment, even when it comes to financial decisions.
And for Manthon, it's a double loss. Both loans will never be repaid. The tokens remain in the chest, a reminder of the human cost of unwise lending.
A sobering thought. It underscores the emotional weight that those tokens carry. They're not just objects, they're symbols of people's lives and the consequences of their choices.
Exactly. And then Manthon picks up another token. This one is an oxbone ring.
Okay, a change of pace perhaps. A more positive story this time.
This one's about a farmer. His rug business was struggling, hit hard by a locust plague. He came to Manthon for a loan, and Manthon, seeing his honesty and his determination, agreed to help.
So a loan based on trust and character rather than just collateral.
Right. And the farmer? He repaid the loan promptly after his next harvest. But the story doesn't end there. A few years later, the farmer returned. He had an idea. He wanted to import goats, special goats with very fine wool. to make even better rugs.
An entrepreneurial spirit,
Good
taking
luck.
a risk to improve his business.
Exactly. And Mathon, impressed by his ingenuity, lent him the gold again. And it was a success. The farmer's business thrived. He became one of the most prosperous rug makers in Babylon.
A story of innovation and growth. It shows that lending, when done wisely, can fuel positive change, not just for the individual, but for the community as a whole.
It's a reminder that money can be a tool for good, for progress, but it needs to be used with careful consideration. And that's what Mathon is trying to teach Rodin.
To be discerning in his choices. To think beyond the immediate gain and consider the long-term consequences.
The next token Mathon shows is a heavy gold bracelet adorned with jewels. This one belonged to, well, he describes her as a fat and wrinkled woman, very talkative.
Okay, a bit of a character, it seems. What was her story?
Her son, he was young and inexperienced, but he had ambitions to become a merchant. She came to Mathon wanting a loan for him to partner with a caravan owner.
A risky venture. Partnering with someone you don't really know, especially in a field you're unfamiliar with.
Exactly. And Mathon, he knew this. But the woman, she was so convinced her son would succeed. And she offered the bracelet as a pledge. It was worth far more than the loan itself.
So Mathon was covered, at least financially. Even if the venture failed, he wouldn't lose his goal.
Right. But it still didn't end well. The caravan owner, he turned out to be dishonest. He abandoned the son in a distant city with nothing. And the son, well, he didn't have the skills or the experience to navigate his way back.
A hard lesson learned. Sometimes, even with the best intentions and collateral, things can go wrong, especially when you're dealing with the unknown.
Did she ask Mathon for his opinion before partnering with the caravan owner?
Ah, good point. I was just thinking that. It sounds like she was so caught up in her son's ambition that she might have overlooked the importance of seeking advice.
You're right. Mathon says she was so fixated on the idea of her son becoming a merchant that she didn't even stop to consider the risks.
It's a reminder that sometimes our own desires, our own dreams for ourselves or for our loved ones can blind us to potential dangers.
Exactly. We need to be willing to step back, to seek different perspectives, to consider all sides of a situation.
Wise words. So what's the next token? What other lessons are hidden in that chest?
This one's simpler. It's a knotted pack rope, belonged to a camel trader named Nebator. And Mathon, he describes him as a man of sound judgment, a shrewd trader.
Okay, so someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Nebator borrows gold regularly to expand his business, buys more camels, invests in his trade routes, and he always repays promptly. Mathon trusts him completely.
A model borrower, then. Someone who understands both the benefits and the responsibilities of lending and borrowing.
Exactly. And this story, it highlights the importance of building a good reputation, of being known for your honesty and reliability. That's what makes people want to do business with you.
It's like building creditworthiness in today's world.
Yep.
Your past financial behavior, your commitment to meeting your obligations, it all adds up to a track record that lenders consider.
And the final token Mathon shows is a small turquoise beetle.
A beetle. That's an interesting choice for a token. What's the significance?
This one, unfortunately, it's another tale of caution. It belonged to a young man, very ambitious. He wanted to make a lot of gold, quickly.
That sounds familiar. We see that ambition in a lot of the stories, don't we?
It's a recurring theme, for sure. But this young man, he lacked experience. He made impulsive decisions, got involved in risky ventures that he didn't fully understand.
So a recipe for disaster. Cash in without wisdom.
Exactly. And his father, who was a man of modest means, he had pledged his land and his livestock to secure the loan. So when the son's schemes failed, well, the father lost everything.
Another tragic consequence. And this time, not just for the borrower, but for his family as well.
And the young man, instead of taking responsibility, he blamed fate. He said the gods were against him.
A classic case of denial and blame shifting, refusing to acknowledge the role of his own choices in the outcome.
And Melathon, he uses this story to caution Rodin. He says, beware of those who seek quick riches without the necessary skills or experience. It's a timeless warning, isn't it? Even today, we're bombarded with get-rich-quick schemes, promises of easy money.
It's all too tempting, that allure of instant wealth. But as Melathon's stories demonstrate, true success usually involves hard work, patience, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes.
So Melathon, having shared these stories, he turns back to Rodin, and he says, now, tell me about this brother-in-law of yours. What does he know of trading?
The moment of truth, bringing it back to Rodin's original dilemma.
Exactly. And Rodin, he admits that Araman, his brother-in-law, well, he's a skilled spear maker. He runs a shop. But when it comes to buying and selling, he's a novice.
Not exactly the ideal qualifications for a merchant. Does Mathon suggest Rodin lend the gold to Araman anyway?
He doesn't give a straight yes or no. Instead, he asks Rodin, does your brother-in-law know how to judge the value of merchandise? Does he understand the art of buying low and selling high?
Smart questions, getting to the heart of what it takes to be successful in trade.
And Rodin, he has to admit, Araman doesn't possess those skills. His expertise lies in crafting spears, not in navigating the complexities of the marketplace.
So it seems like lending the gold would be a huge risk, especially that much gold.
Yeah. Mouthon, he doesn't say outright that Rodin shouldn't lend the gold, but he makes it clear that Araman, in his current state, is not prepared for such a venture. He's lacking the knowledge and the experience.
It's a gentle but firm reality check. And I think that's a valuable approach because Manon isn't just telling Rodin what to do, he's guiding him to think critically about the situation.
Right. He's encouraging him to weigh the risks, to consider the potential consequences, not just for himself, but for his family as well.
Does he offer any alternative scenarios where lending the gold to Araman might be a viable option?
Yes, he does. He poses a hypothetical situation. What if Araman came to him, not with just a vague desire to be a merchant, but with a solid plan, knowledge of a market where he could buy low and sell high? And what if he offered a valuable pledge, security for the loan? In that case, Mathon says he would consider lending the gold.
So it's not about a blanket rule against lending to family. It's about ensuring that the loan is made with the same wisdom and prudence as any other business transaction.
Exactly. And he makes a really interesting point here. He says that gold, for a lender, it's like merchandise. They're stock in trade. And the primary goal is to ensure the safe return of that merchandise, not to share in the risks of the borrower's venture.
It's a perspective we don't often consider. We tend to think of lending as an act of kindness, of generosity. But for a professional lender, it's a business.
Right. And like any business, there needs to be a solid foundation, a plan for success. And Mathon, he's trying to instill that understanding in Rodin.
So after all these stories and insights, what's Mathon's final advice to Rodin regarding his 50 gold pieces?
He says, keep your treasure, guard it wisely, unless you yourself choose to lend it for your own gain, with caution and with diversification.
So he's not saying Rodin should never lend his gold, but he's urging him to be strategic, to think like a lender, to assess the risks and the potential rewards.
And then he does something really interesting. He asks Rodin, how many years did it take you to earn the 3 pieces of gold you have saved? Rodin says, 3 years.
Bringing it back to the value of hard work, making it personal for Rodin.
And Mathon, he continues, and would your sister, knowing this, truly want you to risk 50 years worth of such effort on her husband's unproven venture?
Wow, that's powerful. It really puts the magnitude of the potential loss into perspective.
It does. It forces Rodin to confront the reality that losing this gold would mean losing years of his life, of his labor.
So what specific steps does Mathon suggest Rodin take when he talks to his sister?
He says, tell her of the years of work it took to earn this gift, and offer to lend your husband the equivalent of 1 year's savings, 1 gold piece, but only if he presents a plan, a wise plan that I, Mathon, would deem acceptable.
A brilliant strategy. It allows Rodin to be helpful without taking on an unreasonable risk, and it challenges Araman to prove the seriousness of his intentions.
Right. It's a test of his character, of his commitment. And Mathon, he then goes on to outline his own principles as a gold lender.
I'm all ears. Lay it on me. What are Mathon's golden rules, so to speak?
He says, I lend my surplus gold to earn more gold, but I lend only where I am confident of its safe return, and I take no chance where I am not convinced that my gold will earn liberal interest for me.
So it's a balance, then, between generating wealth and safeguarding your existing capital.
Exactly. And he reiterates that lesson from the token chest, the stories of both success and failure. He says, the tokens in my chest are reminders of men's weaknesses, of their eagerness to borrow, and of their hopefulness that I will risk my gold rather than that they risk their own efforts.
It's a human tendency, isn't it, to try to find the easy way out, to avoid taking personal responsibility. And Mathon, he's seen it time and again.
And then he says something really interesting to Rodin. He says, you now have gold, the means to make more gold. You are a man of property. You can become a lender of gold yourself.
A subtle shift in perspective. Rodin is no longer just a craftsman. He's entered a new realm of possibility.
And Mathon, he wants to equip him with the wisdom to navigate this new world. He says, guard your treasure, for it is the cornerstone of your future. And if it is wisely invested, it will provide for your needs and the needs of those you cherish.
A long-term view, thinking beyond immediate gratification and building towards a secure future.
And he warns Rodin, if your gold is lost, it is gone forever. And with it, the opportunity for greater wealth and the security it brings.
A stark reminder of the permanence of loss, and a powerful motivator to be careful to make wise decisions.
And he asks Rodin again, what is your desire for your 50 gold pieces? And Rodin, he responds, to keep it safe.
A wise choice given all he's learned from Melon.
And Melthon, he approves. He says, it is well spoken. Be not swayed by sentiment to entrust your treasure to those unskilled in guarding it.
So he's not dismissing the importance of helping others, but he's stressing the need for prudence, for ensuring that your generosity doesn't lead to your own ruin.
Right. He warns Rodin about the many ways gold can be lost unexpectedly, through theft, through unwise investments, through bad decisions made by others.
He's painting a realistic picture. Wealth is not always secure. It needs to be actively protected, managed with care.
And then he asks Rodin, what is your second desire for your 50 gold pieces? And Rodin answers that it's earn more gold.
A natural aspiration, wanting your wealth to grow, to work for you.
And Melthon, he nods. He says, it is a worthy ambition. But remember, gold should multiply, not vanish. The earnings from your gold should be added to your principal, so that it, too, may earn for you.
The power of compounding, letting your wealth build upon itself over time. It's a fundamental principle of investing.
And he warns Rodin against those who promise unrealistic returns. He says, beware of those who offer great gains from small ventures. Seek rather those established businesses with a history of success.
So investing with prudence, looking for solid opportunities, not chasing risky schemes that might evaporate overnight.
And as their conversation draws to a close, Melthon leaves Rodin with one final thought. He says, the king's gift to you will be a great teacher of wisdom. Many will seek it from you. Be cautious before you let any gold leave your pouch. Make sure you have a safe way to get it back.
Wise words indeed. A reminder that wealth can attract both opportunity and danger. It's up to the individual to navigate those waters wisely.
So there you have it, the tale of Rodin and Melthon. A story from ancient Babylon that still resonates today. It's a reminder that financial decisions, they're not just about numbers, they're about human behavior, about understanding our own weaknesses and tendencies.
It's about balancing our desires with our responsibilities, about seeking wisdom and guidance, and about learning from the experiences of others. Those tokens in Melthon's chest, they represent not just loans, but life lessons.
And for you, our listener, what resonated most with you in this ancient tale? What insights can you apply to your own financial life? Whether you're dealing with a small windfall or a major investment decision, the principles of prudence, risk assessment, and seeking wise counsel are as relevant today as they were in the time of Rodin and Melthon.
And in a world that often glamorizes quick riches and instant gratification, it's worth pausing to consider the wisdom of Melthon's approach, to ask ourselves, are we truly prepared for the responsibilities that come with wealth? Are we making decisions that will secure our future, or are we chasing illusions that may ultimately leave us empty-handed?
Food for thought indeed. And perhaps a reminder to be grateful for the wisdom we can glean from those who have gone before us, who have navigated the complexities of wealth and shared their lessons with us through stories like this one.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, your week, keep those tokens in mind. Let them serve as a reminder to be mindful of your financial choices, to seek wisdom, and to always protect your cornerstone.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another fascinating exploration of ancient wisdom and its relevance to modern life. Until then, stay curious and stay wise.
And keep learning from those tokens. They have a lot to teach us.